Today we're looking at Section 3, Chapter 28, the rise of fascism in Italy, and ultimately the rise of Benito Mussolini himself. That being said, as always, we're going to start with our terms. Benito Mussolini. Mr. Hart.
Fascist leader of Italy.
Very good. Okay. I want you to have a little bit more into that as far as his rise to power pre-World War II, imposed radical changes. Ultimately, that's going to hail backwards to fascism, which we'll analyze here in a little bit. Okay? The black shirts. Ms. McCoy?
Party militias rejected the democratic process in favor of violent action.
Very good. These are his terror squads. Okay? This is going to be similar to Adolf Hitler's Gestapo forces. So when we see that term coming up in the future, a strong parallel can be driven between those two as far as their utility to the leader. The March on Rome. Mr. Ureki.
Tens of thousands of fascists swarmed toward the capital.
Demanding reform and recovery in Italy. So again, why is Mussolini able to rise to power? Well, we have a lot of bad things going on, specifically economically. And then obviously, I mean, hopefully you all don't know this yourself, but if you're unemployed, you know, several other things become stressful as far as dinner on the table or even having a house to have that table in. Okay, so these people are unhappy and they're going to march on Rome demanding change. Allows Mussolini to be promoted to the status of prime minister. So that is his first title. Okay, and eventually this is going to evolve into something much, much uglier. All right, totalitarian state. McCoy?
A one-party dictatorship attempts to regulate every aspect of life and citizenship.
Very good. Some major ideas here. One party, the keyword dictatorship, every aspect of your life. From education to what you eat, to how food is rationed, to the types of jobs you can have, to the places you can worship, etc., etc. Which, for the majority of the population in Italy, it's not that great of a deal. But if you're an upper member of this society within fascist Italy or the power of Mussolini himself, you know, you're going to be living high on the hog, to say the least. Okay, because you're part of the group that's making the decisions. Fascism. Hartman.
Centralized authoritarian government that isn't communist.
And that's the big idea. Authoritarian government, not communist. Okay, which is why we started the class with that pre-read, and one of those questions was, you know, similarities and differences. Well, similarities, we both want social change, but the major difference between fascism and communism, fascism calls for social classes, whereas communism is one homogeneous class, meaning you are all in the same class together, whether you were historically a billionaire or had nothing. Okay? Fascism is quite the opposite. Continuing on. Rise of Mussolini. The first fact I gave you, post-war Italy faced disorder, unemployment, declining trade, etc., etc. A horrible economy. What else is going on that's allowing Mussolini to rise to power? Mr. Russo.
He promised to end corruption and replace turmoil with order, and he encouraged economic growth and ended conflicts between owners and workers.
Absolutely, and he's going to do this through his black shirts. Okay, so basically everything we have going on in here, he says he has a way to solve it. Okay? You just got to believe in him. Well, this is known as the bug zapper effect. Okay, well, believe in him. Follow that light. Okay, well, if you get too close, things get a little hot and eventually burn up for you, which is what's going to happen here with both Italy as well as Germany under Adolf Hitler. 1919, Mussolini organizes veterans and other discontented Italians into the Fascist Party. That's going to be the group that he will call his power from. Now, in Germany will be the Nazi Party. Okay, now eventually you'll have the Axis powers, in which case they're all somewhat a homogenous group of power against the Western Allies. Mussolini organizes supporters into gangs called the Black Shirts, utilization of violence and fear. If you can get people to fear for their daily lives, you begin to at least respect the power of the leader. You might not like it, but you're not going to challenge it either. Mussolini's Italy. After Mussolini seized power, so now he's in charge, Italy becomes a dictatorship in which citizens and free speech were not tolerated. What else is going on? Down here.
Workers were forbidden to strike and their wages were kept low. Women were pushed out of paying jobs and they were only supposed to take care of their children, and it made kids obey strict military discipline.
Excellent. Okay? To encourage economic growth, which is the ultimate goal here, because again, look at all the problems we have under rise of Mussolini. We're going to go ahead and ban strikes. They're illegal. You either work or you're going to be unemployed. That's what we're going to have here. So with this, too, we're going to place the economy under the government. So government equals econ. We're now in charge of the economy. Okay? We are going to still have a basic capitalist system in that if you are an exceptionally wealthy business owner and you're prospering, you are allowed to continue to operate as you were. But if you're struggling and you're not making ends meet and you have debt galore, the government's going to take your business. You obviously cannot run it well enough, so the government will run it for you. Okay? Under fascism, men, women, and children constantly commanded to make sacrifices for the nation and forget their needs. So I'm going to go ahead and write this down. Self less than the state. You are nothing compared to your country is the message that Italians are receiving here. What you need in life is secondary to what your country needs to prosper. Personal freedoms, not necessarily important. Goals of the government. Consider living in that type of a country. Okay, freedom of religion, nope. If that's going to get in the way of the goals of the government, you worship what the government tells you to. Right? This is the heavy mindset we have going on here. And you can obviously see when we're going to parallel this into Germany how things are going to get ugly fast for all of Europe. Italy's youth was taught to obey strict military discipline and glorify Mussolini. You can go ahead and write here Hitler's youth.
Is that what's in the picture?
Yep, that's Italy's youth, absolutely. And that's going to relate directly to Hitler's youth. From a very young age, you guys will be taught discipline, militarism, that the state is the greatest thing in the world. Okay? Opportunities? No. Higher education? Not necessary. Pro-Italy? Absolutely. Gentlemen, your physical education courses would be only games and conditioning related to making you a stronger soldier. That's it. If you're not having fun, that's okay. That's a personal freedom. That's not a concern to the state. A strong soldier, though, is what you need to be for your government. Okay, women, you are taught to be a more competent mother, to raise and prosper as a mother and raise more children for the government to ultimately place into the military. Your job opportunities, you don't need one. You have one job, and that's to be a mom. Okay? That's the message we're receiving here. What is fascism? 1920s and 30s fascism rooted in extreme nationalism, glorified violence, blind loyalty to the state. Lily.
Okay. Echoing the idea of survival of the fittest, fascist leaders glorified warfare as a noble struggle for survival, centralized authoritarian government that is not a communist, whose policies glorify state over the individual and are destructive to basic human rights. And a fascist government promised a strong, stable government and an end to political feuding that had paralyzed democracy in Italy.
Perfect. Now this final bullet point before I describe or explain what else is going on with the other ones, you don't necessarily need. That's just an FYI. This is what's going on in Europe. Okay? But just as the student did provide, absolutely. Okay? Blind loyalty to the state. Meaning you don't need to know why your government is doing what it is doing. You just need to love your government. Blind loyalty. The government tells you, to join the black shirts and become part of a terrorist squad that may involve you harassing or attacking your friends that you grew up with. That's what you do. Blind loyalty to the state. Even if it means you have to do something heinous against your loved ones. Okay? You just do it. Appeals during economic hard times, utilization of dictators. That makes sense. They have the perfect opportunity. Here's how democracy failed. We can continue down that path and continue to struggle, or you can believe in change here and go this direction, which a lot of people will do, and then we'll use force to ensure that we have power. Strong, stable government. It should be if we're utilizing fear. You're not going to revolt against a government that's threatening your daily safety, are you? No, not unless you don't truly value your life too much. Okay? Things will get ugly for you. And an end to political feuding, if there's only one party, who are they going to argue with? No one. So that should all occur under a dictatorship, under a fascist dictatorship. Okay? Excellent. Objectives. Explain how conditions in Italy favored Mussolini's rise to power. Ms. Kersey.
The bad conditions allowed him to organize a fascist party with veterans and discontent.
Very good. So we have the fascist party is going to rise to power, which he's going to go ahead and promise the revival of the glory of the Roman Empire, which you all studied that in 7th grade, obviously, for quite some time between the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic, and the Holy Roman Empire. They controlled a lot of stuff, a lot of land, a lot of people, and they were the number one in the world for quite some time. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and promise we're going to bring that back. Mussolini will even go forth to say that he's going to revive the Mediterranean Sea as the Roman lake, meaning we're going to control everything around it. Okay, which in Latin is Mare Nostrum, our lake, is what he's promising people. Now, ultimately, conditions, broken promises. After World War I, the Allied powers promised Italy quite some things, mainly land in the Balkan Peninsula. That's not going to happen, so now the Italians are like, wait a minute. We were supposed to get all that land, but now it's its own country. Time out. We got to talk about that. Domestic uprisings and unrest due to a deflated economy. So your economy's down, and now you have all these people that are just genuinely upset. That's the open door right there for Mussolini. I can solve all this. You guys over here fighting, you guys fighting with them and each other, I got this. I'll solve it all for you. We can use the military and fear for that, though. Specify how Mussolini reshaped Italy. Ms. Knight.
He suppressed rival parties and replaced elected officials with fascist supporters who ruled with terror using the black shirt.
Good. Okay, so a few things here. Places the economy under state control, which total control by the government, absolutely. Okay, he's going to take the title of Duce, the leader, basically saying, I'm number one, I'm the primary one. Augustus Caesar, familiar with that name, possibly?
Yeah.
Heard of him? Augustus, Latin for primary one, basically saying, I am all-powerful. That's the mindset we're taking here. Recognize the Vatican City as an independent state. Why? What do you guys think here? What do we know of the Vatican City? What's there?
The Pope.
The Pope. Now, why would he go ahead and basically go off about how we're going to expand, we're going to claim the Mediterranean Sea for Italy, but the Vatican City's allowed to act on its own?
Because it's the Pope.
Well, it's the Pope, but what's the Pope in charge of?
Everything.
Kaufman?
The Pope is in charge of the church, and nobody would want to go against the church.
Absolutely. He's in charge of the Catholic Church. Now, in order to maintain some kind of consistency in his empire that he's planning, he's going to make sure that no one's going to revolt against the Catholic Church, because there are millions of followers to that. So he wants to make sure these people are on board with what he's saying. So he's going to make sure that they're an independent state. Outline the values and goals of fascism. Sir, go ahead.
Some values, strong stable government, putting the state before yourself, and projected a sense of power and confidence at a time of disorder and despair.
Good. Now, the utilization of this power is right here. Action, violence, and discipline, and loyalty as well, required. Violence required. Who in your life has ever told you that? That in this government right now, violence is required. It's required to maintain loyalty. Okay, has anyone ever watched the movie V for Vendetta?
Yeah.
Okay, when those people begin to uprise, the reaction of the government is harsh, fast, and swift. They're going to use as much power as they can to send a message to the people. Same theory here. Okay, people started having ideas that are anti-Mussolini, anti-fascist party. We're going to make sure your ideas don't spread any further than you, in any means necessary. War is good. That's a big idea there. War is good. Okay? Now, one thing I'd also like you to add here, survival of the fittest, is essentially the mindset that he's going with. So everyone should be writing down survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest. Meaning, basically, if Italy is the fittest nation, we're going to go ahead and do what we want, and if you can't stop us, we're just the supreme being. Okay? That's just, I guess, and I keep comparing to Hitler. That's the same thing he's going to do as well. that being said, homework for tonight, the next QRev, 1 and 3 through 7 on page 911.